Jackson Brown, somebody's a baby. It's 5 minutes past 8. It's a Thursday morning. It means one thing. It's SportsFeva time. A big good morning to Peter Swampy Marsh from Quest Newspapers. Morning to you, Swamp.
Good morning, Matty, and you're rocking a very nice tan there from a Sunday well spent at Dolphin Oval on Sunday afternoon. Wasn't it a great afternoon?
It was a great afternoon, a long afternoon, as we said, in the sun. Swampy, 3 big games of rugby league, Colts, A-grade and the Queensland Cup. 2 out of 3, as Meatloaf said, ain't bad for the Dolphins.
Yeah, no, it was a wonderful afternoon, and unfortunately the Colts just got ran over. They were leading with, I think, about 9 minutes to go on the clock, and unfortunately couldn't hold out against Wynnum rather. But the Queensland Cup boys did the job very impressively, and the Frogs backed it up. So 2 grand finals for the Dolphins on September 23, a possible third coming this weekend. The Colts boys will play Norths again for, I think, about the 3rd time in 4 or 5 weeks to see if they can get through, and hopefully we can get 3 from 3 there for the Dolphins in the QRL grand final.
Yeah, it would be massive if the Finns could get all 3 through to grand final day Sunday week. It will be a huge day, and already a lot of excitement around Moreton Bay and on the peninsula about the Queensland Cup. So fingers crossed for them. We were both there, like we said. Impressive hit out by the Dolphins. The score probably not a real reflection of how close that game was, because Tweed had a try disallowed late in that final 10 minutes to get them within 6. So score that, and that's a different story than the Dolphins scored a late try to give them that extra, distance in the scores. So probably not a true reflection. Most people, if they've looked at the score, gone, "Oh, Dolphins cruise there," but it was much closer than the score probably represented.
Yeah, absolutely, and there were a couple of almost length of the field efforts from the Dolphins, and I think that's where they really hold the advantage over sides like Tweed and Wynnum, who, I suppose, the term honest campaigners. So they didn't really have an X factor on the weekend, Tweed, to deliver that knockout punch, whereas the Dolphins did. There we saw, the opening try came from a length of the field run by Aaron Whitchurch. We saw Tom Butterfield set up a try with a wonderful little dart out of dummy half and link up with Delroy Berryman, who is just in super form at the moment, and Derek Watkins with a wonderful cutout pass to link up with Delroy Berryman again in the second half. So X factor was the Dolphins' real key. I think they matched Tweed in the honest campaigners, in the dirty work that has to be done in the middle, but they just had the icing to finish off the cake, and that's what added to that difference in the score.
And of course, the really unfortunate thing out of the game is Captain Courageous Chris Farrell, good friend of the show. Chris, we've had him on quite a few times in the history of the show. Unfortunately, broken jaw in 2 places after a Ryan James shoulder charge gone wrong. Yeah, we unfortunately, I don't imagine we'll be getting Faz on to have a chat beforehand. He has posted a picture online of his jaw just after the event, and it's a pretty grisly one. And in the opening couple of minutes of the game as well, and he was really pumped up. And I think that he was one of the ones who forced an error in the opening tackle, and you thought it was going to be another big game for him in what has been a big month, and he's come back from that dislocated elbow. And unfortunately, we're not seeing any of him in the grand final, which is a real shame. He's a hard worker. He's the heart of the club. He's the captain of the team. And like we were saying off there, really deserves to be in that grand final. Yeah, of course, bought from Tweed a couple of years ago, about 4 years ago, by the Finns, and he's really worked himself in to be a leader of that club. And I really feel for Chris that he's going to miss this GF, because, win, lose or draw, he deserves to be there. He's put a lot into this club in the last 4 years, so that's really unfortunate. He'll be down there on the sideline, though, and it's up to those Finns to win it for Chris. I know they won't get caught up in that, but there's got to be an element of that, because he deserves that, because he's been great for the Finns this year. So we'll talk more about it. It'll be a huge show next Thursday, talking Queensland Cup. Hopefully we've got 3 clubs to talk about in the Queensland Cup final, so looking forward to that one. Yeah, it's going to be a big one. Still plenty happening around the Moreton Bay region too, Matty. The cricket season is only a couple of days away. We had the warehouse cricket season already kick off, and the Pine Rivers Cricket Club will get things rolling this weekend in the warehouse cricket, and been some fascinating duels between the Pine Rivers Cricket Club and the Peninsula Cricket Club actually in the last couple of years. So great stuff in the warehouse cricket Premier Grade. The Caboolture Sports Cricket Club only a couple of weeks away. I think the start of October their season kicks off.
off, and of course they are the defending premiers in both the 2-day and 1-day competition on the Sunshine Coast. The Big Bash League's kicking off, and the Brisbane Heat are again searching for a backyard cricketer. You've been rolling those little tweakers over in the backyard.
I've been practicing the off-spinner swamp, so just waiting for someone to find me. That's all it takes.
And the Rainbow Demons, as we switch to baseball, have made a wonderful comeback into the major A grades this year in the Queensland Baseball Leagues, which is a wonderful thing for the club. They've been out of there for a little while, and they brought back some wonderful talent, probably some of the best baseballing talent the Moreton Bay region has produced to play in this team. So we might have a chat to them during the season, but they kick off, I think, in a couple of weeks' time, which is great stuff.
September's my favourite sporting month, Swamp.
It's fantastic, and I think every 4 years you add August and July and August to that as well, because obviously a wonderful couple of months with the Olympics and the Paralympics. And of course, don't forget, Matty, you can get down to the Celebrate Redcliffe Festival on Sunday, I think at noon. The official welcome home for all of our Moreton Bay Olympians, and I know not all of them can be there, but there's going to be a fair swathe of Olympians and Paralympians there to cheer home, and don't they deserve a cheer? They've done fantastic stuff for the region.
Oh, absolutely. They've done us all proud, and we're all proud of them here at SportsFeva in particular. Now, tell us about our guest we got on the show today, Swampster.
First up, we're going to have a chat to our AFL man. He works for the AFL, Mike Whiting. He will come and give us a big wrap of not only the AFL finals, but a wrap of the Lions and the Suns seasons, which will be fantastic stuff. We'll find out all about the finals if you're keen for possibly a little bit of a tip. I think it's down to the last 6 in the AFL now. We'll speak to Trent Grimsey, who listeners will remember we had on the show earlier in the year, and he was taking a dip in a little pond called the English Channel and trying to swim it as fast as he could. And you may have already heard that he smashed the English Channel record on Saturday, became the fastest person to ever cross the English Channel by more than 2 minutes. So we've got Trent on for a chat after Mike Whiting, and then Caboolture softball, Melinda Weaver, who's been doing some fantastic stuff not only for the Australian team but for her Italian team in the European leagues recently. We'll have Mel on to have a chat. She's just been selected in the Queensland side for the Gillies Shield, which is the national competition for women's softball that we have in Australia. So we'll have Mel on to have a chat about her very busy couple of months as well.
Action-packed as always. We'll play a song and we'll be back in to talk plenty more sport. Bang on 8:15 here on 101.5. It's AFL finals time, so we thought we'd get our AFL guru on. Michael Whiting, good morning to you.
Morning, boys. How are you?
Yeah, we're very good, and we were just talking September's a wonderful month, and of course the AFL rolling through the final series at the moment. But before we get to that, we might run over the fortunes of our 2 Queensland clubs, the Lions and the Suns, and we might start with the Suns. How would you seen, I suppose, this year compared to last year, Mike? It's been I suppose plenty of expectations on the Suns to show some improvement this year. Have they delivered that for fans?
Yeah, pretty difficult season. You've almost got to break it down into 2 halves. They were very disappointing in the first half of the year. They lost their first 13 or 14 games. Had a lot of injuries, a lot of unlucky injuries, collision incidents, Nathan Bock breaking his leg, Jared Harbauer broken the elbow. So they had a lot of problems in the first half of the year, but I think we saw some genuine improvement in the last 8 weeks. They won 3 out of their last 8. Should have beaten Brisbane. Pushed Sydney and Hawthorn for 3 quarters. So, and with the victories over Carlton and Richmond late in the season, we saw some genuine improvement and some good signs there. So I think we can say they improved.
There was plenty of fanfare after that win over Carlton, and I suppose that was the final nail in Brett Ratton's coffin. How much can Suns fans read into that? Was that a really good performance by the Gold Coast, or was that a really poor performance by Carlton?
I think it was a really good performance by the Gold Coast. I mean, Carlton had a lot to play for at that stage. They were still in finals contention. I think they may have walked up here with a slightly less than perfect attitude. They might have thought they were just going to walk straight over the Suns, but Gold Coast were terribly undermanned at that stage. They had 18 to 20 players on their injured list, and were playing a lot of kids that had very minimal experience, and they just put it to them from the first quarter, and even when Carlton challenged late, they were able to stand up again. So I think Suns fans can be genuinely excited about that performance.
What's the goal for next year? What are those marks that the Suns have to hit to show they're continuing to improve as a club?
Well, I think after the back half of this season, you'd have to look at 6 to 8, 9 wins. I think that's what you'd have to look at. I mean, a lot of these kids that they drafted a couple of years ago are going to have 40, 50 and 60 games under their belt, and providing they get a reasonable run with injuries, of course, particularly with their experienced guys, I think you'd have to look at somewhere between 6 and 9 wins.
Now, of course, the other Queensland team, the Brisbane Lions, my boys, they probably exceeded expectations this year, finished with 10 wins and some good wins down the stretch. Was that a lot better than a lot of, I suppose, pundits were expecting them to do?
Yeah, I certainly think it was. But the 10 wins was a great marker for them. I think most people thought 6 to 8 for them would be a good result, but they finished with 10. I guess particularly the 2 wins over West Coast and Adelaide were the highlights, because they showed that their best footy can match the best footy in the competition. So they've just got to work on consistency, like most teams outside the 8. Their best is good enough, but they just can't sustain it for 4 quarters. But definite improvement. A lot of guys elevated their games. Guys like Mitch Golby, Ryan Harwood, little Josh Green in the forward line. We had the emergence of Dane Zorko, Elliot Yeo. Like, there's a lot of positives there, and a lot of young guys sort of closing that gap between the best Lions player and the worst.
Is finals a realistic expectation for Lions fans next season?
Oh, mate, I've wrestled with that one. Well, I think they're going to be fringe. Because obviously for Brisbane, they were still 3 or 4 games outside the top 8. That's the reality. And, there was still 3 or 4 or 5 teams in front of them outside the 8. So there's a lot of teams to jump there, but I think they should be looking at that, 8th to 10th area. They should be very close.
And speaking of finals, well, finals in 2012 anyway, we've got 6 teams left now and 4 doing battle this weekend, and it's traditionally the weekend where the winners from the weekend before lose and the losers win, Mike, since we've had this top 8 format where it's broken up into a top 4 and a bottom 4.
Amazing statistics, aren't they? I think there was, I heard that only 2 out of 40 or 38 out of 40 of the week 1 losers had bounced back to win in week 2. It's a pretty amazing statistic, and I think I'm going to be one of those people that gets sucked in by the winners from week 1 and thinking they can do it again this week, because they look like a couple of great matches this weekend.
Yeah, the first one, and I've won so much flack for this over the season from plenty of people. I made the call earlier in the year that the Pies were on the slide, and they weren't gonna go as far as they did last year, and they take on West Coast. Any chance the Eagles can do the job, and give me a little bit of indication here?
Yeah, well, mate, I think this is the hardest match of the 2, actually. Every time I look at it, I change my mind, but I certainly think West Coast can win. I mean, they were phenomenal last weekend. Just their tall forward line, I think, is going to really worry Collingwood. They've got Darling, Kennedy, Lynch, Dean Cox or Natanui when they go forward, and Collingwood not known for their big defenders, and also Nick Maxwell being suspended, there's another hole in that back half. But I'm sure they'll fight. I mean, they're a proud club, Collingwood, and you don't finish in the top 4 for no reason. Sure, they'll come out all guns blazing, but I just slightly lean towards West Coast. I think they've got too many weapons. West
Coast for you. And the other game is the Crows taking on the Dockers, and the Dockers, of course, took care of Geelong, which was the big upset from last weekend.
They did. I mean, they've been terrific the last 10 weeks, along with Hawthorn, probably arguably been the form team in the last 10 or so weeks. They've really embraced Ross Lyon's new game plan. They're strangling teams like they did against Geelong last week. Adelaide looked like they had a bit of stage fright in week 1 against Sydney. I'm sure they'll improve from that. The loss of Daniel Talia for them is a big one down back. He looked like an obvious matchup for the red-hot Matthew Pavlich, but looks like they might have to go with Ben Rutten against Pav now. But I think I'm going to be sucked in and go for Freo in that one.
Now, of course, you've gone for perhaps all the 2 winners from last week, but regardless of who wins this weekend, they've got 2 very good sides waiting for them the week after. Will it get you to cast your eye a couple of weeks down the track? Who's going to be playing in the GF, and who's going to be the winner?
Very hard to see Hawthorn not making the grand final. I mean, they've been favourites from early in the year, and they've really shown why in the last month. They've beaten Sydney, they've beaten West Coast. Of course, they beat Collingwood last week, so they're in red-hot form. It's hard to see them not making it. And I think Sydney are going to be hard to beat in Sydney, no matter who they play, whether it's West Coast or Collingwood. They're going to be very tough to beat. I fancy the two teams that are sitting back this week and waiting. I think it's going to be Hawthorn and Sydney, and if it's those two, you have to lean towards Hawthorn.
Yeah, okay. I think that's the general consensus around the Traps. I still give the Crows a sneaky hope of bouncing back. So we'll see how we go. But Mike, we appreciate your time this morning. We might get you back in the lead up to the GF.
No worries, boys. Anytime.
Thanks, Mike.
Cheers, Mike.
Thanks.
Mike Whiting, our AFL guru here at SportsFeva. And he's tipping the two upsets again, according to the bookies anyway, and the stats.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible statistic, isn't it? That no team outside the top four has ever gone on to win, and only a couple have ever won in that second week that have gone through. And NRL fans will be very, I suppose, reading into that statistic, and it'll be interesting to see if that does carry across to the NRL.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, extremely different games with different demands on players. I'd wager that a week off in AFL terms means a lot more than a week off in NRL terms. They just do more work, I suppose, aerobically than NRL players do. So having a week off to recover and rebuild is a big advantage in the AFL. So it'll be interesting to see how that, whether that trend can be snapped this year in the AFL, and to see how it does pan out in the first year of the NRL using the same final system. I like the final system though, Matty. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it creates, particularly in that first week, some amazing games, some really good games. I didn't hate the McIntyre system as much as everyone else seemed to. I think it had its pluses as well, but this system is good to watch, and it's just will be very interesting to see how those losers from week one, because that, like we said, they got that amazing record in the AFL of being able to bounce back. I know a guy doesn't have any other bet apart from he backs the losers from week one to bounce back in week two. That's the only bet he has all year. He backs them both and takes them in a double, and he's probably one of the few profitable punters around.
I was going to say, it seems like a pretty smart bet to me for most of the time.
Yep. And he's going to do it in the NRL too. I was speaking to him this week, so be interested to see how they go. So be cheering for the Cowboys, but I really think Manly will beat them.
See, I think Cowboys have got the X factor here, Matty.
I think everyone's getting carried away with the Cowboys swamp, but they knocked over a disappointing Broncos who gifted them a few tries, and I know they're everyone's favourites. I've got a soft spot for the Cowboys as well, but I reckon Manly are the bet of the weekend.
I think Manly they got bashed around by the Bulldogs last week. They probably got a bit of a shock. A few players out or with some injury concerns, and Cowboys are, if you'll excuse the pun, riding high. They did beat a disappointing Broncos side, I'll give you that, and they really didn't. I mean, I think if you look at the completion stats of the Broncos, they were just atrocious, and you can never win a game of football with that kind of statistic. But it was only 8-6 when the two sides last met, and I think there's a little bit of extra something in the Cowboys this year. I'm backing them to at least go the extra distance. Whether the Cowboys can get over the storm in Melbourne is a whole other kettle of fish, but I reckon they can do the job over Manly this weekend.
We'll have to. What about the other game?
I like the green machine. I like the green machine.
Everyone's going against these stats. What about the stats, guys?
No, look, I like them. I think the Bunnies were very disappointing against Melbourne, and there's a guy in a number one jersey called Greg Inglis that you can never write off. But the Bunnies were disappointing. Canberra are just carrying momentum like any finals team needs to be successful, and they got under the Sharks' skin, and I think if they can do that again against South, they'll be specials.
Think about all those poor bandwagon Bunny fans that have just popped up.
They're going to be so disappointed.
The jersey will be packed away for another 20 years. Unbelievable. But I think the Rabbits will knock over the Raiders. So there you go. We're not a lot agreeing here this morning, Swamp.
I have to put up a wall within the studio.
It's getting a little bit heated here in the SportsFeva studio. Before we put a wrap on, before we finish talking about rugby league this morning, of course, the Sunshine Coast Gympie Rugby League all come to an end on Saturday night, and congratulations to the Kawana Dolphins knocking over the Gympie Devils. An undefeated season, Swampy. That's an enormous effort.
Huge effort from Rob Bruff and his boys up there. And you remember, I think the SportsFeva bump got a little bit misdirected this year, Matty. Perhaps they Bruffy picked it up when he came on.
Bruffy got it,
yes,
and Chook lost it.
He did, but well done to Kiwana. It would have been heartbreaking, I think, no matter whether you were cheering for, I suppose, outside of Kiwana and Gympie fans, for Kiwana to go that whole year undefeated and then lose it on the big dance. And I suppose on the flip side of that coin, heartbreaking for Gympie as well, to be good enough to reach grand finals in consecutive years and lose both of them, which is a really tough, tough trot for them.
Well, that's 3 straight grand finals for them, and only to take one away, it does hurt a little bit. Yeah, so, and well done, of course, to Adam Starr, the 7th time he is now retired. That was his 7th last game, but fantastic performance, and he needed that win for his grand final record to be in the plus to have won more grand finals than he'd lost grand finals. So unfortunately, Starry, you might have to go around one more time.
He's not going to let that slide. He'll not let that slide.
He'll pick up somewhere. Somewhere he'll show up. Don't worry. I don't know. In some comp somewhere, you watch Adam Starr will pop up next year. I'll nearly guarantee it.
Could be in the Caboolture region touch football.
Something. Anything. He'll be there. We'll see A Star, Ringo as he's known to his friends. He'll pop up somewhere. Don't worry, Adam Starr. But congratulations on an amazing career, Adam Starr. Well, he is one of the assistant coaches of that Colt side, so we'll be trying to get them through to GF as well. And don't they have fantastic? That just back to the Dolphins Colt side. Troy Lindsay's coach, Adam Starr's an assistant, and Peter Robinson's assistant. Some amazing names for those young fellas coming through at the Dolphins.
Great older heads for those younger players coming through to be learning and moulding themselves on. There's not too many better to wear a red and white jersey than those boys, and great to be learning from them.
Absolutely. It's bang on 8:30. We'll have a word from our sponsors and we'll be back to talk more sport. 28 minutes to 9 here on 101.5. You're listening to Sports Fever with Matthew and Swampy. Now, Swamp, in a year that's been an amazing year for the Moreton Bay region, I reckon our next guest is right in the frame for the Moreton Bay sporting moment of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. He is Lawton Swim Club open water swimming superstar, and you can add to that list now, fastest person ever to cross the English Channel. Welcome to Sports Fever, Trent Grimsey.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
Anytime. Now, for those who didn't know, Trent took a dip in a little pond they like to call the English Channel on Saturday, and smashed the previous record of the fastest crossing, or one-way crossing ever, by about 2 minutes and 55 seconds. And it was a long-term dream for you, Trent, to hold that record. What were your feelings? You're standing on the, I hesitate to call it a beach because it's an English beach, but you're standing on the beach about to jump in the water. What was going through your mind?
Look, just excitement. I mean, I'd been in Dover for about 2 weeks before I actually swam the channel, and look, I was just itching to go. So when I was on the start line, just super excited and couldn't wait to get to France.
It was good conditions, but you actually were told in the lead-up that you weren't going to find the perfect conditions that you needed to break the record, weren't you?
Yeah, no, that's right. My pilot, Mike, like 2 days before I swam, he said, look, there's not going to be a day in this tide, this your window you have to swim, that conditions are going to be well enough to break the record. So he said, look, you'll just be trying to do a fast time, but he said the record won't be possible. But look, I still came out and was able to break the record.
Take us through that mental battle, Trent, of swimming the English Channel. What do you think about it? Is it just, do you try and continually focus on the swimming, or do you let your mind float a little bit to get you through those tough periods?
Yeah, look, there were quite a few tough periods during the race as well. I guess you just got to try and stay as focused as possible, but at the same time, like I had my crew on the board, and they were really, really good crew, really supportive the whole way. They were holding up messages and signs or with a whiteboard so I could read them. So I mean that was good too. It kind of took my mind off the pain a little bit.
I suppose there were some really tough periods for you in that swim. I think the 5 to 6 hour mark was a pretty tough one for you. What was the one thing that I suppose you got to the end of that 6 hour mark and spurred you on to finish strong and get that record?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it was a really tough period from 5 hours to 6 hours. I let my mind slip mentally, and then physically I was hurting, and I thought I was in a little bit of trouble. But I mean, my coach, I saw him hold up a sign saying I had 4.2 kilometres to swim in an hour and 10 minutes, and then I'd have the record. And I mean, I knew that was well and truly within reach.
And take us through that when you've arrived, you've broken the record. Obviously, you'd be exhausted, but I guess that takes a back seat to the excitement that you felt.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I just didn't know what to do. I stood up on the rock in France, and I'm like, well, now what? But yeah, look, it's just awesome, and words just can't really describe the feeling.
You've swum plenty of open water swims all around the world in all sorts of conditions. Where do you rate the English Channel in terms of how tough it is as an open water swim?
Oh, look, it's definitely one of the toughest. I mean, it's 34 kilometres in cold water, and I mean, you got to push the whole way. It's not like any other race where you're racing different competitors. You can afford to go a little bit easier to start, and rafting, the English Channel, it's you against the clock, so you're constantly pushing the whole time. It's
a wonderful achievement, but it's not only the only achievement Trent's got under his belt in the last couple of months, Matty. It's you took out the open water swimming Grand Prix, only the second man to ever do that since it's been brought in this series around the world. Not been a bad 2012 for you, Trent.
Oh, mate, look, I honestly couldn't have asked for a better one. Everything's just gone to plan, and I've just had a lot of fun doing it.
And what's next, Trent? What's on the goals? What's next to cross off?
What's next to cross off? Well, I'm thinking of actually doing the double crossing maybe 2014. So it'd be pretty cool to break the record for the double crossing.
What is the record for the double crossing?
It's 16 hours. 16 hours, 30 minutes, something like that.
Having swum the solo crossing, did you think that you'd have the energy spare to turn around and do it again?
Oh, probably not then. Doing a double crossing, I wouldn't go as fast the first lap, so I'd just take it a little bit easier. But yeah, look, I think I can make 2 laps. It'll just be a matter of how fast.
Trent, it's wonderful to have you on the show. Absolutely massive SportsFeva and Moreton Bay, congratulations for getting that record. It's a wonderful achievement, and regardless of when and where it might be broken in the future, it'll stand there forever. So a massive congratulations, and best of luck for the next couple of months, and we'll definitely have to get you back on before you attempt any kind of double crossing. Matty's just tired thinking about it here, but massive congratulations, Trent. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys, and thanks for having me.
Thanks, Trent. Dear idea, Trent. The double crossing. Is he fair dinkum? That's amazing.
Matty, I spoke to Trent mere hours after he jumped out of the water on Saturday, and the bloke sounded as fresh as he did as you and I were speaking to him here. You couldn't tell that he just pushed his body to the absolute limit over 7 hours, and he sounded fresh as a daisy, and there was even a little bit of a heckle saying that, on Twitter, that he looked a bit fresh, and someone said, yeah, well, of course he looked fresh, he only swum 7 hours. But what a wonderful achievement. That's one of, I think you put it up there with, one of the great iconic sporting records as an English Channel record, and for him to do it on his first attempt in conditions that weren't given any chance for him to be able to break the record. The previous person that held the record, Peter Stoichev from Bulgaria, when he broke that record, everything went perfect. He had the perfect conditions, he was in perfect shape, he was in perfect form. Trent had 2 of those. He's in perfect shape and perfect form, but just was written off in terms of the conditions. So for him to break it despite those odds is just a wonderful achievement, and a well-deserved one.
A double crossing. I still can't get over that spot.
And quite literally, I raised this possibility with Trent earlier in the year. They get out of the water, they run up, they touch the rock, they turn around, and they run straight back into the water. There's no time off and have a 5-minute sit down. You're out, you touch the rock, and you're straight back in. So I'm
exhausted. Don't do it, Trent. Like, good luck to you, mate. But dear idea.
For his well-being.
Geez, when he was learning swimming, surely he should have focused on the 50-metre fly or something. Trent, dear idea. Because when we had Trent on last time, before he was bet to head overseas, I fair dinkum can knock up doing the width of a pool. Like, that's not a lie. I'm not exaggerating. That does me. And oh dear, I've got to play a song swamp. I'm out. That's too good for me. 16 minutes to 9 here on 101.5. You listen to SportsFeva with Matthew and Swampy. And just a quick shout out, Swampy, to one of our big fans, one of your colleagues, Jamie Lee Carter, a Peninsula product. She loves the show.
She does love the show.
So there you go, JLC. A big good morning to you. 14 minutes to 9 here on 101.5. You're listening to SportsFeva with Matthew and Swampy. Time now to turn our attention to softball, and joining us on the line is one of the stars from the Moreton Bay region, Melinda Weaver. Good morning to you.
Good Good morning. How are you?
We're very good here, Mel. It's been a very busy couple of months for yourself, both overseas and soon to be a busy summer domestically as well. We might cast things back to July and August, where you came home with a bronze medal from the Open Women's World Softball Championships with the Aussie Spirit. A wonderful achievement there from the Aussie girls.
Thank you. It was a great achievement for us. We've worked hard over the past 2 years, so it was good to finish third. We were very happy with our achievement.
And of course, a big bump up. I think the girls finished 6th at the last World Championship, so a really strong improvement there from the last outing.
They did. We did finish 6th last time, so third was a great position for us, especially with a young team and new officials.
And I think when we spoke earlier in the year, you did mention about that young team. How did they go, I suppose, gelling together on the biggest of stages?
Well, third, I guess that speaks for itself, but we had a long campaign. We were overseas playing together for a month prior to the World Championship, so we had quite a bit of game time to gel together and to see what worked well for us, and I think in the end we got most of it right.
And of course, a fantastic effort to pick up that bronze medal. But was there, I guess, a little bit of a sore point there that now that you know that you'll definitely be in medal contention and softball's no longer an Olympic sport, that obviously hurts a little bit?
It does. It was disappointing not to be an Olympic stage, but the World Championships is the biggest competition for softball, so it was great for everyone who loves softball to be a part of it.
Now, of course, when you're not flying the flag very proudly for the Aussies, you're based in Italy for the Italian leagues, and you also took part in the European Cup, which is essentially the European Championship for those softball leagues, and wonderful success there for you as well.
Yeah, I was based in Italy for just under 6 months. We finished second in the European Cup, so our team and also the society were ecstatic with that result. So that was great for us and also everyone involved.
You've been based, or you've had a little bit of time rather, in Italy to play in those European leagues. What's it like compared to softball domestically? I suppose both in terms of the profile and the kind of softball being played.
I think here in Australia we have one of the best softball leagues, but over there each team has a few foreign players, so that bumps up the league. And it's also just a great way to play in a different country and also living in a different culture as well.
How's the culture shock been for you? Have you enjoyed the time living in Italy?
Loved it. Pizza and pasta every day. It doesn't get much better.
That's very true. I think I'd be happy with that. Now, of course, news through this week that you've made the Queensland side for the 2012-13 Gillies Shield competition, which is the national competition between the states for softball in Australia. And the Queensland girls finished third last year, which I think was again an improvement from the last campaign. Are you excited to be back in the Queensland side?
Yeah, it's great. I haven't seen the girls for a good part of 6 months, so I'm ready to get back and train with them, and hopefully we can improve on our third place from last year.
Yeah, the ACT and New South Wales, I believe, were the 1 and 2 last year. Are they going to be strong again in the competition this year?
They were 1 and 2, and yes, they're always strong. New South Wales is always one of our biggest competitors, and ACT have got some great players as well. So, of course, they're going to be up the top 2 along with WA, so it's going to be a great competition. It's
played over 4 rounds all across the country and kicks off in WA on October 26. When can we expect the Queensland round, and when can we get along to cheer the girls on?
Well, unfortunately, there are no Queensland round this year. It's the first time it's happened this way. But you can watch online, and also we have a web page that people can support us on. But, yeah, unfortunately, there's none here in Queensland.
I know we had the one last year. That's very disappointing to hear for the... I know there's a massive contingent of young softballers that would love to get along, but I'm sure we'll all be watching online. Mel, thank you so much for your time this morning. Great to catch up, and best of luck in the Gillies Shield for 2012-2013.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Thanks, Mel.
Bye-bye.
Melinda Weaver, local softball star, Caboolture girl, and doing things on the world stage in the softball world.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a very busy campaign with the Aussie Spirit team, and then with her Italian side. And maybe for any of those young softballers out there that are listening, there is an official campaign behind getting softball back into the Olympics. I think there's a vote next year on possible inclusion in the 2020 Olympics. I won't see it in Rio, but I believe the website is a Facebook campaign. It's facebook.com/ back softball. So if you want to see softball back into the Olympics, where personally I believe it should belong, jump on there and back it, and hopefully the Olympic Committee will smile favourably on the sport next year.
I can't believe he got kicked out, Swamp. It was great.
It was fantastic, and it was. It was a perfect fit for the Olympics. It was, for me, for an Olympic sport to really be considered as a true Olympic sport, it's got to be the pinnacle. It's got to be the top. There's got to be nothing better than an Olympic gold medal for that sport. And that was what it was with softball, and it was fantastic competition. We saw the Aussie girls do so well in the last one, and I know plenty of people in the sport were just gutted that it got taken out. And they've got the World Championships, but it's just not the same as Olympic medal, unfortunately. So hopefully they can get some good news next year.
Yep, kept on that campaign to bring softball back to the Olympics. It's 8 minutes to 9. We'll play a song and we'll be back to wrap up the show. Steve Harley, come up and make me smile. It's 4 minutes to 9 here on SportsFeva. The full-time siren is about to sound on the show, but a few things to wrap up, Swampster.
Yeah, big weekend upcoming for the Caboolture Sports Football Club. 4 teams playing in grand finals up at Maroochydore from tomorrow night and through Saturday. The big one of those, of course, is the Premier Women's side, who are chasing back-to-back championships. They unfortunately lost the premiership to Maroochydore, and there's plenty of good rivalry there between these two sides. They've been the two form sides of the competition for 3 years. You may as well have just said, let's play a final series between Caboolture and Maroochydore. They've been that dominant. They've gone tit for tat every year. The first year, Caboolture won the premiership, Maroochydore won the championship. The second year, Maroochydore won the premiership, Caboolture won the championship. And Maroochydores won the premiership this year. We'll be chasing that very rare double that we don't see too often in our soccer circles. And Caboolture are very keen to go and spoil the party. Last year, it was a grand final, 0-0 at the end of normal time. 30 minutes of extra time couldn't separate them, and it came down to a penalty shootout to decide the winner. So there was nothing in it last year. Maroochydore pipped Caboolture 1-0 in the first qualifying final, but just going to be a fantastic game of football there for the Premier Women's side. And for women's football all round at the club, it's a very good time. The 17 girls are also through to their grand final. And the under-15 girls for the club are also through to a grand final this weekend. They actually played Bribie Island in a bit of a Moreton Bay clash there. And the under-15 boys are also through to their grand final. So congratulations and good luck to all of those teams from the Caboolture Sports Football Club who will be fighting it out in grand finals this weekend.
It's a busy time of year, isn't it, in junior sport as well. So good luck to all those teams doing battle. What else we got, Swamp?
But best of luck to the Pond Rivers Cricket Club. I mentioned them earlier, but they start their campaign in the warehouse cricket season at Marchant Park this weekend. Cruel stuff, and it tends to happen with cricket, in that finals often get affected by rain, and what that does happen is whoever finishes highest on the table gets an automatic qualification through. For the past 2 years, Pond Rivers have beaten the side that they were going to face in the final in their last outing, only to have it be rained out, and they get no chance to play the game and automatically get knocked out. So the weather has knocked them out for the last 2 years. They're hungry, they're keen. They brought some very good players in from the Toombul Cricket Club, and best of luck to those boys who hopefully can get a chance to showcase their final skills by the time we get to next year.
Yeah, good luck to those guys. And like you said, it has been heartbreak for them the last couple of years. Mother Nature hasn't been kind to them at all. So good luck to those guys. And, of course, good luck to the Dolphins Colts, as we said earlier in the show, doing battle at Cougarai Oval against the North Devils.
10:15 kickoff, I do believe that the time is, so best of luck to those boys down there.
Dalton Phillips, young Caboolture lad in that side, and been playing some really good footy the last couple of weeks. He's a name to watch out for, sure. He's been playing some lock forward. Not a big character by any stretch, but geez, he plays a lot of ticker. So good luck to the Dolphins Colts. And for any teams doing battle in finals football, or if you're kicking off your year in cricket, softball, soccer, whatever it may be, good luck. Good luck.
It's look, summer's only just around the corner, so exciting times for summer sports.
It certainly is. And did you hear earlier? It's Warnie's birthday today.
Oh,
that means it's cricket season. When it's Warnie's birthday,
that should be the official start.
That's it. Warnie's birthday. is the start of the cricket season. That's it for another show. Thank you, Swampy.
Always a pleasure, Matty.
And thank you to all our guests this morning, our AFL guru Mike Whiting, our Moreton Bay Man of the Year, Trent Grimsey, and also local softballer Mel Weaver. Thank you very much to all our listeners this morning. We'll be back again next Thursday. Stand by now for the local news.